Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm so sorry, but we've been having, as you can probably guess, some real technical issues today. So welcome and so sorry for the delay. We're happy that you hung out if you did and waited for us to go live. So I know folks were expecting Tom to talk today, and he was going to talk about turning negatives into positives. And unfortunately, he's having some health issues. And so I'm here instead today, and my name's Bev Raymond. I'm a member of Unity of the Seacoast. I'm the president of the board, and I live 3 hours away, so I'm doing this service remotely. And again, I do apologize for the technical issues. I hope you can hear me. So I'm going to begin my talk for a little. We're doing things a little differently today, given the time. It's already 10:26. So my talk today is going to be about the three faces of God. And just give me 1 second. Wait a second. All right, I'm hopeful that you all can hear me and hear me well. Okay, so I always find it super challenging to figure out what to talk about, and I went back and forth about what to discuss this morning, and finally landed on this concept of the three faces of God. And the idea of the three faces of God comes originally from an American philosopher. His name is Ken Wilber, and he's a very prolific writer and philosopher. I read that he is one of the most prolific writers in the United States. And along with him is a person called Paul Smith, and Paul Smith he's a minister. He's not a Unity minister, although he does collaborate with Unity from time to time. He also does a lot of work on this concept of the three faces of God. And he wrote a book. Here it is. It's called Is Your God Big Enough, Close Enough, You Enough? Jesus and the Three Faces of God. And the foreword is actually by Richard Rohr. Some of you may know Richard Rohr. And then the afterword is written by Ken Wilber, this philosopher that I mentioned. And so before I get into talking about what are the three faces of God, I do want to make a little disclaimer about the fact that this is something that we do talk about at Unity, at least from my perspective in my ministerial training. I've taken about 25 courses, and probably a quarter of them have talked about this idea of there being three faces of God. And so it might feel a little different from what we normally talk about on Unity. I just want you to know that it's not something completely foreign. It is being taught in the ministerial program. Okay, so what I want to do is begin with a quick explanation of each face, and then we'll go a little deeper. So the first face of God is the inner face of God. It's God being us. And this is the face of God that Unity primarily speaks of, and that is the God as me, the God as you. It's the awareness of our oneness with God, and we describe it oftentimes as Christ consciousness. It's knowing that we are one with and an individual expression of God, God within me. So inner face of God, God being me. The second face of God is the intimate face of God, God in relationship, God beside me. And this is the face of God that most traditional churches talk about, right? It's that God that people have historically spoken to, prayed to. It's the face of God that we get a little squirrely about at Unity. And it's that face of God that a lot of people have left traditional churches to come to Unity because of. And it's the way that face of God has been presented to us as this anthropomorphic God in the sky, the God that seems to at whim dole out rewards or punishments, kind of a wrathful God. But that's all about the way that face of God's been presented to us. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the third face of God is God as the infinite face of God, God beyond us. And that's, God as nature, God as the web of life. And unfortunately, historically, almost all religions have aligned with one of these faces of God, maybe two, and rejected the others. And when you think about it, Western churches align primarily, not unity, but most Western churches align with that second face of God, God in relationship. Eastern religions have always aligned with the first face of God. The first face of God. And then American Indians tend to talk about the universe and that third face of God. But no religion really has kind of accepted all three. And so Ken Wilber says, there's really something to this idea of accepting God in all of these forms. And it's called integral Christianity. And Paul Smith, who I mentioned, wrote a book aptly titled Integral Christianity. So this idea that we can relate to God in all three ways, and that there's something to be said about that. There's this potential to have a much greater awareness, wholeness in our relationship when we align with all three. And I kind of agree with that. If we embrace all, three faces, we can really benefit from that. So let's just go a little bit more deeper into the different faces again. So I'm going to go in reverse order this time and start with that third face of God, the infinite face of God. The first unity principle is that there's one presence and one power active as the universe. God's the good, omnipresent. So God is present everywhere. God is present in every atom, in everything we see in the universe. And so this concept of God as the universe makes perfect sense, and it does align with unity teachings. For me, I interact with this face of God when I go for a walk. I like to go for what I call a prayer walk, and this face is visible to me, and I'm sure to all of you, when I'm walking in nature, right? It's the incredible blossom on the blossom trees in the summer. It's fall right now. I mean, what a spectacular time to see the majesty of God in the beautiful fall colors. It's the butterfly that flies by. It's that cardinal. It's the hummingbird. It's the majesty that we look at when we look up to the stars, or when we're standing at a mountaintop looking out at the earth. So it's just this opportunity to marvel and delight in this particular face of God. It's kind of seeing God's energy in every living thing. And it also can be found in other ways, like where we're listening to amazing music, or we're looking at astonishing artwork. For me, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I was guided once to ask for, what is my sort of sign when I have a spiritual question and I'm kind of looking to see if I'm on the right path. What kind of God wink or God nod is my sign? And for me, it's feathers. So if I'm kind of like seeking guidance or an answer on something, and I go for my prayer walk and I walk past this really exquisite feather, I know for me that's my God wink. That's my God nod that, yep, I'm on the right path. I know one of my relatives, Denise, is listening today, and I know she thinks about recurrent numbers, right? So 1111. That would be an example for Denise of her kind of God wink. When she sees that number, she knows that's kind of a nod from God. And people, I think Gabby Bernstein, she uses owls. And I was thinking about that. I've only seen an owl in my life, maybe twice, live in nature. But she sees owls. So just examples of how we interact with that face of God out in nature. I love the quote from John Glenn, the astronaut, who said that when he returned from space, he made the comment, to look out at this kind of creation and not believe in God is to me impossible. So the second face of God, again, this is the one that many of us have been made to squirm a little bit. But again, it's that really unhealthy version of the second face of God that's been problematic. It's the idea of a wrathful and vengeful God who gives rewards and punishments. But we can really miss out on the beauty of this deep interpersonal relationship when we reject this face. And well, a couple things. One is, this is the face of God that Jesus spoke of and called Father or Abba. And he spoke of this face of God often. And then when we think about Myrtle Fillmore, Charles Fillmore's wife, founders of Unity, Myrtle used to write letters to God. And many Unity authors, particularly the classic Unity authors, have written very beautiful second face prayers and poems. And that second face of God is God in personal relationship. But you have to think about it from the perspective of an all-loving God. We know Unity's, first principle, God is omnipresent, all good. God is all good. And so having this relationship with this really, really loving, unconditional loving person, being, whatever you want to call it, face, can be really, really beautiful. And I know for me, there was a period of time in my life when I kind of really walked away from that concept, right? And I kind of missed it. I missed the comfort. I missed there's a sense of gratitude that you have with that relationship, a sense of surrender, just a sense of comfort that I really missed. And for me, I interact with the second face of God when I do my prayer journaling. So I oftentimes get up in the morning, I go grab a cup of coffee, I jump back in bed. It's my favorite time of day if I have time. And I prayer journal, and I, write down what's on my mind. What am I concerned about? Who am I praying for? What am I seeking answers to? And interestingly, most of the time, those answers come through the other faces, right? They certainly come from Unity's tradition of meditation and the silence, but also, like I mentioned, walking in nature. And I might get my answer as I'm walking and having those prayer walks in the morning. So if we can accept that God is everywhere present, and we can accept that God is good and benevolent, then this idea of God beside us and in relationship with us is maybe not such a crazy stretch. And then back to the first face of God. God is the inner face of God. And this is the face of God that is closer than hands and feet. And the one tricky part about this is it isn't referring to our ego personality, right? Instead, it's the reality of who we are in truth. This is the deep us, the real us, the divine self. This is us as divinity in human form that's called to act as the voice, the heart, the hands, and the feet of God. And again, it's that face that we connect with when we are deep in meditation and in the silence. And it can present as those mountaintop experiences that we sometimes have in meditation, those experiences of like true realization with a capital R, that we're one with everything. And I think the trick here again is to, sometimes I think people sometimes kind of mix up ego with the higher holy self. And that's the one tricky part about this concept of being God as us, is that we have to remember that it's not our ego, it's not our personality, it's that higher holy self that's behind all of that. Which is why we talk of the still small voice, right? Ego tends to be loud and noisy sometimes, more excitable. And when we're in meditation and when we're in the silence, it's that still small voice. So to the degree that we can lose our identification with our egoic personality and instead identify with our God self, that's the degree to which we walk and talk like Jesus did, as God, bringing our light to the world. In Matthew 16, 24, 26, Jesus said that we lose ourself to save ourself with a capital S, right? To save our higher self. We lose our egoic personality self and claim our higher spiritual self, our Christ consciousness. And the more we look at the world and act from this place of deeper inner divine light, the more we are manifesting what Jesus was talking about when he said, we are each the light of the world. So that's the interface of God being us. So again, Jesus in these three forms, God in these three forms. And I invite you to consider, is your God big enough? Is your God close enough? And is your God you enough? So I'm hoping, I'm assuming it's okay to go into meditation. I am going to do a meditation that is not actually related to what I just talked about, not entirely. Because the daily word today is kindness, which we would normally have read, but the daily word today was all about kindness, I thought it would make sense to do a loving kindness meditation. And I know we've done these before, and so you're probably all familiar with it. But I thought it was fitting to do this today. So I would love for you to sit comfortably wherever you are, those of you in the actual church building and those of you listening remotely. Just sit and relax in a comfortable position and just take note of being present in your body and in your environment. And just breathe at your own pace and take your time and just settle in. And if you want to close your eyes, you don't have to if that doesn't feel comfortable. And turn your focus to your heart and feel or imagine your beating heart with gratitude and warmth. And I'd love for you to call to mind a person or maybe a pet, past or present, that you have felt that steady, unconditional, and beautiful love. And just feel that love and what it feels as it touches your heart in a special way. Allow yourself to experience that loving kindness as if it were right there near you. Happy for your presence, grateful for you just as you are. And relax into that warm feeling of connection. And just allow thoughts to arise and evaporate and come back to your heart. And we're going to say some loving words and kindness to ourselves first and foremost. I am happy and safe. I am healthy in body and in mind. I always have enough. My heart knows peace. I hold myself in loving kindness. Now bring to mind someone who means a lot to you, someone in whose presence you can relax and be fully appreciated for who you are. Feel the goodness of this heart connection. Feel your mutual gratitude. And as you offer your well wishes, imagine that this person is touched by them and experiences happiness and peace. And we say to that person, you are held in loving kindness. You are happy and safe. You are healthy in mind and in body. You are and do have enough. And your heart knows peace. And now let's bring to mind someone we've met casually, someone we don't really know. It could be the person who manages the produce department at your grocery store. It could be a neighbor that you nod to. Might be that person you passed in line the other day. And as you think of them, we're going to wish them well. And we're going to say these same words. And we're going to imagine that any material worries they have are gone. Any concerns about the future are gone. Any aches, pains. Imagine that as your wishes touch them, their hearts and their minds are at ease. And so we say, you are held in loving kindness. You are happy and safe. You are healthy in body and in mind. May you always have enough. May your heart know peace. And finally, my favorite part of these meditations is to include as many people and animals as you can, happy or sad, loved or neglected, in good health or in poor health, in all stages of life. And without making a particular effort to envision them separately, simply maintain awareness of the presence of all of these beings who share your planet. And we send them wishes with a sincere and a tender heart. May you be held in loving kindness. May you be happy and safe. May you be healthy in body and in mind. May you always have enough. And may your heart know peace. And now we return to the awareness of being present in our space, connected to all of those beings through our wishes and our affirmations. And maintaining this sense of presence to the best of our ability, we wrap up our loving kindness meditation with a sense of gratitude. And so it is. Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Bev, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I um I enjoyed that immensely. Can everyone hear me? If you can, give me a thumbs up.
I can.
Okay. Bev, thank you so much. That was great. If you can email me a copy of that book, I want to read it now.
Sure. Yes, happy to.
Awesome. And I'm going to ask everyone to join me if Charlie can grab the basket or someone, and we'll do our prayer of tithes and offerings. We'll just meander around the room. I'm not showing my face because I'm in the hospital. The affirmation of tithes and offering is divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And I want to humbly thank everyone for their patience this week. It means a lot when things go out of order and we can pull together and still make it happen. throughout the whole week, behind the scenes and what we see. You guys are quite amazing to me. So I'm going to end this service with the prayer protection. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. And we are richly blessed.